Specializing the education system for the differently abled. My grand vision. The biggest scope vision I have for mental health is an entirely specialized education system, whole schools where everybody diagnosed as mentally differently abled goes to study, where a teacher understands that an ADHDer has a different brain instead of being lazy or delinquent or difficult or consciously giving the finger to all his teachers. A system where an autistic or schizophrenic is raised teaching what they specifically need to learn to grow into a functioning adult able to use their particular mind to contribute significantly to society. Now, I'll likely never live to actually found anything this profound, but this vision helps focus my work so that at least perhaps I can contribute a book or two that will help relay this vision and maybe even inspire others to envision the same. A quick note, I'm very inspired by the fictional world of X-Men, the idea of mutants with powers that need to be trained and controlled. This portrayal in X-Men has long been known to be a real-world metaphor for differently abled people. Most specifically, I like how Professor X forms a school for young mutants to teach them how to control and use their abilities in a productive manner. More specifics. Summary. There's a spectrum of ages and skill levels for any given subject, and while education in a standard sense has been around forever, we've only had modern mental health systems for a few hundred years, and we have a long way to go in reformulating this spectrum specifically for the mentally differently abled. Let us take this image. It happens to be my own concept, but the details are not important for this particular issue, so please do not even read them. This is simply an example of some advanced concept in psychology or mental health. It could be any of the following: a DSM categorization, a mindfulness technique, a treatment or protocol for trauma, an organization technique for an ADHDer, and so on. What is important here is that we recognize that there exists a simplicity within the complexity. Specifically, we see very simple colored circles that are an intrinsic part of this concept. The circles are so simple, in fact, that even a kindergartner could play some sort of educational game or artistic exercise that involves the circles. Now, from this extreme pole of simplicity, we may build in visual complexity representing higher learning levels. Ultimately, the student has reached a complexity of thinking that has been designed to specifically prepare them for the more advanced psychology concept. I propose that pretty much any concept in psychology contains simplicities and complexities that can be taught at various points, even incrementally, along the simple to complex continuum, which transposes very closely to the spectrum of ages in the education system, and similarly, anybody's level of knowledge in a specific subject, regardless of age. Now, of course, for standard purposes, we've had this spectrum of learning for literally millions of years. Even young cavemen needed to learn to hunt buffalo and make tools. But the modern mental health system has only been around for 200 years. We're just discovering how to quantify and handle people with ADHD, schizophrenia, autism, and so on. So mental health has, in a sense, millions of years of catch-up to do in the way of how we educate, train, and raise the mentally differently abled specifically. Now let me give an example of what I'm talking about, a run-through of a method I've specifically designed to help the differently abled that can apply over this entire spectrum.